Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm your doing better than I thought I was host, Madelyn.
I'm your Happy New Year host, Emma.
I'm your she's just about to close up the library host, Madelyn. And thanks for tuning into the show. It's the year-end episode here at Talk This. It's our 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2, 3, 8th year-end episode.
Yeah.
Here at Talk This. Isn't that unbelievable?
Did we always do end of the year episodes?
I'm sure that we didn't, but it's our 8th end of a year that we are experiencing here at Talk This. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it.
And here we are. Another year ends in a few days anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, it does not fall on the 31st like it did last year.
Yeah.
And so we cannot do the countdown.
Dang it.
Although we could.
We still could, but
you would just have to wait 2 extra days to listen. In which case, shut this off now.
Yeah, come back.
Come back in 2 days.
Or listen to it and then come back and do the countdown part. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can do that too. Yes, we did decide to do it this week after much controversy the past several weeks on the podcast. This is it. The year-end episode.
Yeah.
So it's time to talk about 2024. What we've been playing, what the world's been playing, and what's coming up next in 2025.
Yep.
So let's start with the count. Emma, how many games did you finish or play, or however you want to do it this year?
So you may recall last year, I distinctly remember talking about how I really didn't think I could play more games than I did in that year.
Emma actually says this almost every year.
I think so.
So super cut.
Yes. I even wonder if I did last year say, I can't believe I played more games than I did the previous year.
That does sound familiar to me.
But, yeah. So, last year, I finished 32 games. Okay? No, I'm sorry. 2023, I finished 32 games.
That's... Okay, first of all, let's just everyone digest that for a minute. But okay, go ahead.
2024... because I've finished Tales of Symphonia at noon on Sunday.
Uh-huh.
I've finished 40 games.
Jesus Christ. This is a cry for help.
Kind of is. So, couple mitigating factors on this,
okay.
right? This includes Trails of Cold Steel 4, which most of my playtime was probably 2023.
Okay, that's fine.
Also includes Reincarnation. Near Reincarnation, which ended service this year.
Okay.
Again, most of my playtime, probably 2023.
Okay, sure. 2 games, alright.
Those are my mitigating factors. Although Cold Steel 4, still hanging on to my PlayStation wrap-up, in 5th place.
Chokehold.
With like 25 hours this year.
Yeah.
So...
Other mitigating factors, though, how many games did you beat, do you think, that you played for 40 hours or more?
You know, probably a
lot, right?
Yeah, so another thing, so I think what caused this is I was working half-time in February and March.
Yeah. Which
allowed me to very quickly move through Final Fantasy VII, no, I'm sorry, it would have been Infinite Wealth, and then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Yeah. Very fast, when otherwise they would have taken up like a big chunk of my year.
Guess what, buddy? I was working full-time plus in February and March, and I still blasted through Infinite Wealth, so...
But, comparing, I also played, Shin Megami Tensei Vengeance this year, which also quite a long game, and you can see on my PlayStation wrap-up, February, top game is Infinite Wealth. March, top game is Final Fantasy VII. And then there's 5 months where my top game is Vengeance.
Sure.
Because I played a lot of that game, but it took me a lot longer to finish it than it did those games. But yeah, I don't think I want to repeat playing 40 games in a year.
No?
Honestly.
No? This is the high water mark? Let's clip that.
Yeah, let's clip it. One of them also UFO 50, so you could also just add... I didn't complete all the games, obviously, but I'm counting it as finished because I did dust off all 50 cartridges, so...
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm jealous that you got to play that one. I can't wait for them to announce that's going to come to Switch.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was feeling pretty good about mine.
You should!
I finished 13 games. 14 if you include Balatro.
Sure, yeah. I mean, you put a lot of time in Balatro.
I mean, I quote-unquote beat Balatro.
Right, yeah.
Last year, though, I had, like, a category where FTL was in. Now, granted, I felt like I actually could list FTL here. I quote-unquote beat FTL for the first time in, like, January, but I didn't. It's not in my total. But I really thought I was going to be at much less, below last year. But last year, I beat 14 games plus FTL, and this year I beat 13 plus Balatro. So, I was proud of myself. I was like...
It is.
Not bad. Not bad. Plus, here's my mitigating factor. There are probably 2 months of the year where I didn't, like, overall, across various trips or whatever, where I did not really have access to a console. I guess I could have been playing more on my Switch, but, like, I would have been playing, like, handheld on my Switch by myself, which feels, like, rude when you're visiting your partner overseas.
Maybe a little.
So, like, despite the fact that I, like, had more travel than, like, probably any year, I still managed to beat 13 games, and this year it wasn't inflated by only one Trine game.
Yeah.
Not 4.
Yeah.
Like last year, really upping the count.
I also think the key is getting a Steam Deck.
Ugh, yeah, I know. Because you have to have blasted through so many of these, like, little, like, 3-hour games that I could play, except that I'm like, ugh, Steam.
Yes. Having a Steam Deck, because I've just, like, the games I've played on my Steam Deck, I think my computer, like, technically could handle.
Yeah.
Right? It hasn't really given me more in terms of, like, processing power. I just have such a psychic block against playing games on my laptop. I don't know why. It's very hard
There's
for me.
There's something wrong with my brain. I mean, partially for me it's that it's a Mac, and I can't do it, and partially it's that, like, I'm often close to running out of storage.
Yes.
So, like, there are technical roadblocks for me that I don't think you encounter in quite the same way. But yeah, it's just, like, really, if it's not Civilization, something my brain goes, no.
Yeah. But yeah, having a Steam Deck also means that, like, I have access to a lot of short, weird games that initially only release at least on PC.
Yeah.
Which I played a lot of this year. And very much enjoyed.
Yeah.
So there's that too.
Yeah.
Just to go over, because I own all consoles now.
Yeah, I'm not... This podcast is like, somebody help her.
To go over my balance for the year.
Yeah, please, run through it.
1 game on Android, of course, right? Near Incarnation.
Sure.
2 games on 3DS.
Yeah.
3 games on Xbox. Pretty bad year for my Xbox.
Well, like, this is not an Xbox family. Yeah. We're never going to overcome that.
I'll probably pick a month this year and do Game Pass for a month and enjoy that.
Best deal in gaming.
Best deal in gaming. 7 games on my PlayStation, 8 games on my Switch, and 19 games on my Steam Deck.
That's crazy. Okay, so we're actually not that far apart.
Yeah?
Well, you still played like 10 more games minus the Steam Deck. So not that far. Only twice as many.
If you took my Steam Deck away from me.
And the Xbox. If we only took the systems that I have. I don't have an Android.
Or a 3DS.
Or a 3DS. Then we played about the same number of games.
You're right.
So
that's how it works.
Basically the same. Same amount of claim to being the host here. The main host.
I also only dropped 1 game this year.
Oh, I thought that was like, you're like, I only dropped my 3DS.
No.
Once.
I only dropped my 3DS once, and it still works. Mm-hmm. No. I only dropped 1 game this year, also. I finished every game that I started.
Yeah, me too, pretty much. I mean, I'm still playing Final Fantasy Rebirth, and I'm technically still, I will play more of the Stanley Parable, I promise. But yeah, the only game that I guess I played some Monster Rancher, and didn't really do anything with it, but that's pretty much how you play Monster Rancher, unless they're gonna make me a new one.
That doesn't really count.
So yeah, pretty good year for unfinished games. Headed in pretty clean slate, by which I mean I'm 20 hours into a large RPG, clean slate.
I think I say that because I think I've had a resolution on this show before of, like, I want to not, like, buy into the hype as much and really focus on buying games that I'm going to play to the end. And I think it's maybe a little bit of a double-edged sword of occasionally I get games like Unicorn Overlord that are fine. they're fine. And also 70 hours long, and for some reason I've done everything in it.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it very much.
Yeah.
And maybe I should have dropped it at like 20 hours,
Right, but you felt stubborn.
But
yeah.
I felt stubborn. And like, it's not like I didn't like it, but it does feel like, I saw that on my Switch wrap up, and I was like, I feel like I maybe could have spent those hours like doing anything else, honestly,
Yeah, that is very fair. I liked almost all of the games that I played this year. Limbo is probably the low water mark for the year, I think, which is it was fine. Like, Limbo was fine.
Yeah.
So not horrible. Not a horrible year.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that's the key metric, Like, how many games did you finish that you enjoyed?
Yeah. It was really just sort of a trip down, like, obsessive memory lane, though.
Yeah?
Looking at these. I'm like, oh, wow. A lot of things that I got too into.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, uh-oh. Like, we can chart my mental health this year by which game I was playing too much of for a span of X weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Balatro, certainly. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth,
sure.
Obviously.
Yeah.
For a while there, Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble.
Of course.
Got very into that one.
RDG, very dangerous for you.
Yeah, just scratched something in my brain. Trine 5 to the physical health detriment of Click with Boyfriend at various points. I did play a lot of... I'm just listing games. In the very early part of the year, I'd sort of forgotten this was this year. I played a lot of Fire Emblem Three Hopes. And then I put it down for a while. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
For Infinite Wealth. And then I had to come back and finish it.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I did.
Yeah.
But I did play a lot of that for a while. And we got really into Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, too. I mean, because my boyfriend got really into Animal Well. I did not in quite the same way. Mm-hmm. But Lorelei and the Laser Eyes was a, like, uh-oh, it's 2 a.m. kind of game in the house.
Yeah.
Which it's really not designed for that. Like, looking at that screen at 1:30 in the morning is bad.
Yeah, probably.
Permanently damaged my eyes.
All right, well, one last statistic for me. I got 2 bingos on my backlog bingo board.
I was going to ask how the backlog bingo went.
Very well this year for games.
I look at Neo Twoey on my shelf every couple of months, and I go, crap.
Yes, no, I got 2 bingos, and I also have a drop on Ender Lilies, which is the one game that I dropped, which technically gives me more bingos if I count it as filled in.
Sure.
But yes, very good year for filling out my, cleaning up my backlog, and of course adding more to my backlog.
Naturally.
Too.
Naturally. What can you do? Can't be helped.
And I've made my board for next year.
Wow.
But we can talk about that at the end. We can
probably should make a board.
They're fun.
I know.
I like that it reminds me what I want to play, but it also feels like it gives me flexibility, because they're not like, I must play all of these in a year in this order, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can be like, and even in the middle of the year, if I like play a game on my backlog that wasn't on the board, like, I can just swap out the picture. Right.
Yeah.
And that's fine. So I found it a fun way to handle, like, getting around to things that isn't, like, prescriptive.
Totally. Well, my overall I played about 425 hours.
Oh, I did not count my hours.
I don't want you to. Like, let's all be freaked out that I played 425 hours. To be fair, let's shave like 10% off of that. Because there's plenty of me being like, let me leave Like a Dragon on while I'm doing something.
Yeah.
And I never quite understand, like, when the gameplay counter is running.
Yeah.
So you can shave 20 to 40 hours off of that, probably.
Yeah.
But still, a lot of gaming. Don't count how many days that is, ladies and gentlemen, and others.
I did find it quite funny that I apparently played more Infinite Wealth than Rebirth by, like, minutes. Some matter of minutes.
Yeah.
Because they're both at the same 95-hour mark.
Yeah.
On my statistics, so it took me like 30 minutes longer to play Infinite Wealth.
Nice. Nice job, Ichi. This was not my strongest year for playing games for the podcast. especially in the second half of the year.
You were doing a lot of traveling.
I was doing a lot of traveling. I was working a lot, and I just sort of like let myself off the hook a little bit. I would like to recommit in 2025 a little bit more, I hope. I will say, though, that we have reached an era of, like, both old and new games for the podcast where it's, like, a little harder than it once was.
Yeah.
The new games now are not all, are about 50%, like, indies on Steam.
Yeah.
Which sometimes I can't play. And, like, otherwise, like, I could, and they're only, like, $5, and I really should, right? I should just get over the computer allergy. And they're about 50% games that are $70.
Yeah.
And big.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, like, I'm not gonna buy that. So it's trickier than it used to be.
Well, I feel like that's a good transition to talk about, like, the year in games in general.
Sure.
And we can come back to, like, our favorite games.
Yes, we'll save the talk this game of the year reveal.
Because that very much is, like, this year in games, right? There's been a lot of discussion about games getting too big, both in length and in budget.
Yep.
And I feel like, you know, the COVID is still affecting game timelines.
Absolutely.
So there was some lack in some of the big AAA releases this year, and I think
you remember Concord?
We can talk about Concord. I think that opened the way for there to be a lot of indies to get sort of like cult attention.
Big year for cult attention indies. Or it felt that way anyway. It's always hard for me to pinpoint how real that is.
I mean, it's within the circle of gamers, right?
Yeah.
Which is not the whole population.
Yeah.
Right, but stuff like
I've had normal people say the words Balatro to me.
Yes, Balatro.
Crazy.
Balatro.
Yeah.
Obviously a really huge one.
Did I tell you? Sorry to interrupt. I saw a man on the train the other day playing a poker game on his phone.
Yeah.
And my first thought was Balatro, and it was not. It was a normal poker game. But I should have told him, like, have you heard
of Balatro?
The hit roguelike deck builder. Balatro.
But stuff like mouthwashing too.
Right. Yeah.
Definitely managed to get like a cult following and real like community around it, right?
Well, and the whole they really should have done more of a Barbenheimer with the was it April when all those games that I played came out?
Yeah, there was that whole month.
Yeah.
In April or March or something where there were just bangers coming out every week.
Yeah.
Animal Well too, right? Yeah.
Animal Well, Lorelei came out then.
Lorelei,
Thousand Times
Resist, yeah.
I feel like there was another one. I can't remember.
I'm sure there were a lot.
Yeah.
Those were some of the big ones that got a lot of attention, but like even the small indies were sort of felt like they were a little bit buoyed up by the deluge of stuff.
Absolutely.
That got attention, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Definitely saw the trials and the triumphs both of live service games. PlayStation opening the year with Helldivers 2.
A phenomenon.
Very successful.
Yeah.
Still seems very successful.
Yep.
And then
except their little like, oh, you have to have a PlayStation Network.
Yeah,
thing,
that's a problem with all of their games that they're porting to PC. Which if countries literally cannot make a PlayStation Network account, it's baffling to me. Like, it's like, what if we just cut out more than half the world from our...
Because on one hand, it seems super reasonable. I mean, the whole, like, you have to have a PSN thing to access online play has always been sort of stupid, but, like, that's just what it is. Like, that boat's closed.
Yeah.
That ship has sailed. But, so on one hand, it's like, oh, like, yeah, of course. Like, that's actually doesn't seem like an unreasonable thing to require.
But they require...
Until you learn that there's, like, hundreds of countries where you can't.
And they require it for their single-player games.
Yeah.
Like, Ghost of Tsushima on PC, you have to have a PlayStation Network account. Or at least, I don't know if they changed that, but you at least did when it came out. And it's like...
I don't know.
From my position, like, yeah, whatever. Like, here's my PlayStation Network account.
I know,
but
my fat dog.
It is, like, you think about that there are countries that do not have access to that, and it's like... What are you doing, Sony?
Yeah, it gets baffling, for sure.
And then there was September. I mean, there was a whole host of other live service games that opened and closed and whatever, but mainly there was September, I think it was September, when Concord came out.
Oh no, Concord much earlier in the year than that.
I think it was fall.
No, I really think it was spring. Hang on. Oh no, you're right.
August.
It was August. Sorry, I'm always right. For some reason I thought it was March. Sorry, I'm stupid.
I had September really because it closed in September, I guess. Yeah, if you're like, what's Concord? Well, nothing now.
It's nothing now.
It's nothing. It's a whole millions and millions and millions of dollars.
I'm on the Wikipedia page because I looked up the date. According to video game podcast host Colin Moriarty, citing an unnamed Concord developer, the game had development costs of $400 million, although this figure has been disputed.
For, like, an Overwatch-like,
yep,
essentially. That looked fine. Very Guardians of the Galaxy-esque. Character designs, probably not as strong as you wanted them to be for a character shooter, right?
It's hard, though. It's not so hard. Like, it's all about people, like, latching on. You just never know what people are gonna drool over.
Yes, that's true. I think looking at them, you can be like, well, they don't have strong
No, I'm not
silhouettes.
saying it's good. I'm just saying, I'm sure that you can get...
I think that's just a result of, it was in development for, like, 8-9 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's just rough.
Yeah.
Anyway, it came out, massive bomb, and Sony just refunded everyone.
Yeah.
And totally removed it from stores. And I closed Firewalk later, I believe.
Yeah, in
was
October.
The studio that developed it. Just like it's a kind of thing where you're really like feel the lack of games reporting and like mainstream news coverage, because that's like a huge failure.
Yeah, can you imagine if someone had released a $400 million movie and people went and saw it and it was bad and they were like, oh, give your ticket back to AMC.
Yeah. And was like, we're not showing it anymore. And also we burned the masters or whatever, right?
Which obviously like does happen, but not like that.
But yeah, there's just not like good news reporting anywhere but where Jason Schreier is, I guess.
Jason Schreier is the only...
over at Bloomberg is the only paper, like mainstream paper, that does any games coverage. Yeah. A friend sent me, like, an article that their mom had given them that was like, it's about games, maybe your friend would enjoy this, right? And before I read it, I was literally joking with them that's like, oh, but the stuff, like, in the Times always starts with, like, do you remember Tetris, right? And when I go read this later, after, we've had our meeting, it literally opens with, I got Tetris for Christmas. And it's like...
oh, God.
Why are we still here?
Can you imagine if every, like, television review was like, MASH. Crazy, huh?
Yeah, it's literally like that.
Yeah.
And
Lumiere brothers and their trains. Yeah. Wild stuff.
And it just really feels like there are a lot of issues in games like this, like, Fortnite and Roblox and those sorts of games. Any of the esports stuff that feels like mainstream papers should have been building up a newsroom for this, or a reporter. One person,
There's no such thing as a newsroom.
Yes,
let's not be silly.
And there's no such thing as, like, games journalism anymore.
Yep.
Because they're all gone. They've all been laid off.
Well, it's all, I mean, this is not to denigrate any of the work that any of those laid off people at their own outlets are doing now, but it's like, it's all blogs now. Like, they're still doing, of course they're still doing journalism. I don't mean that to be like, bleh,
yes.
But like,
there's a lot of,
no editor.
I subscribe to a lot of independent newsletters.
Yeah.
I follow Remap.
Mm-hmm.
Aftermath is, worker-owned reporting stuff. So it's not like there's not stuff out there. It's just becoming very hard to follow.
Like, that stuff is like It's hard to compare stuff like that to like an outlet.
Sure.
Right? They're obviously doing the same work that they're doing at those outlets. I'm not really talking about it in a quality way. I'm just like, it's not a newspaper. it's not IGN.
Yes.
It's functionally, like, it's a dope blog, but it's a blog.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah. Which is rough.
Yes. But a lot of, websites getting bought and gutted.
I can't believe the InfoWars thing didn't go through.
Yes.
I'm so upset.
One good thing in life.
The only good
thing that happened this year, The Onion buying InfoWars and...
taken from us.
Taken away. Stolen.
Brutal.
And, in addition to all these sites being gutted, I think, like, I saw Kotaku recently just had another round of layoffs. There's, like, 2 people working there. And IGN had layoffs, and other sites closed, and all. They brought Vice back as a weird...
Oh, right, the weird one guy.
Weird Waypoint zombie where they lock them in the basement and force them to write blogs.
Yeah.
And, of course, in the games industry as well...
Layoffs.
Woo!
Yay! You said it was, like, even worse, right?
I think recently it came up to 2022's and 2023's layoffs combined this year.
Great.
Which, of course, is among big companies, right? Microsoft had a bunch. Sony closed Firewalk, right? All this stuff. And among indies. A lot of indies having trouble securing funding to keep going and work on their projects. So a lot of indies just closing, right? Or, if you don't nod, at least you're striking because you're French.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Exactly. Yeah, it just feels like, man, like, in some ways there's money sloshing around everywhere, and in some ways there's just no money.
Yes, exactly.
So thanks, shareholders. This is also the year where we all were forced to become cognizant of the 3 words, Sweet Baby Inc.
Oh my god. I saw this in a roundup of news. I was like, that wasn't this year.
Yes, it was.
That wasn't this year.
Yes, it was.
But it very much was. Our second little mini, fun little sidequel Gamergate.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
I do have to say again, just because every time we talk about this, I have to say this, that, like, if you were going to make up a name of a company that was going to be doing something nefariously woke, Sweet Baby Inc., pretty good name for it. Like, it does sound like a fake name.
Okay.
Like, I do feel like that has fueled, I say this 100% tongue-in-cheek, but, like, 50% of the longevity and hold of this is that it has a name that feels silly and maybe vaguely nefarious.
It sounds stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
that's
this company, Sweet Baby Inc., holds the reins of the entire industry. Like, and they're called Sweet Baby? No, they're not!
The ink is doing a lot here, to be fair. The ink turns it from, like, oh, that's kind of a weird name, to, like, oh, those are the kingpins.
But yes, Sweet Baby Inc. consulted on the Suicide Squad, seemed to be the main sort of,
if by consulted you mean
kill the
ruined,
Suicide Squad, seems to be
wokified.
the main thing that put them in the public consciousness. And now, like, they make lists of all games. They're narrative consultants.
Yeah.
They hire them to look at various things of the story, including things such as,
No white men allowed.
Are we representing this, minority
Make this
person
character
in a correct way? And also, like, does this make sense? Normal narrative consulting, because game companies don't have writers. And people have just decided that, like, they do as whatever is bad, right? Whatever they don't like. It's this
bad.
Evil company that's doing it, that's forcing all the poor game developers to get under their thumb, right? It's just stupid.
It is stupid.
Stupid. But it's really picked up this year. I feel like there's always been like the alloy edits.
It's just the culture.
The alloy edits to give her plastic surgery and all this sort of stuff, and like
it's just the culture it's the culture we live in now.
I guess
it's the culture we have always lived in, but now it's just gonna get worse.
Well, I'm not on Twitter anymore, so
yes, neither is the podcast. So
I don't have to see that as much.
Yeah,
which is lovely, honestly. Yeah. So thanks that.
In good news, decent game awards.
Yeah,
like some real reveals.
I have my same fundamental issues with the Game Awards,
but acknowledging it for what it was
fine.
It was good. A better Game Awards than 2023.
I did watch it, and it wasn't until like hour 2 that I started to really lose it.
Yeah.
So there's that. Naughty Dog is making a game about religion, which does make me a little concerned. But that was like the big closer.
Remember when Neil Druckmann got totally thrown under the bus, like a few months ago?
Oh, right.
By Sony. I can't even remember what they said about him. I just remember being
it was something about really AI.
Oh, yeah, and he was like, I didn't say that.
I didn't say any of this. And Sony had to retract their own interview they did with their own employee.
Own guy. Their, like, main guy.
Because they just, like, made up stuff that he said, apparently.
Right, I'd forgotten that it was AI.
I think it was
crazy.
AI.
Yeah, I think it was too.
Which, again, another fun little thing is a couple of game trailers at the Game Awards play a little, like, is that cat game AI?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, actually.
Well, we'll find out.
I do feel like we're falling back on the blockchain stuff.
Yes, the blockchain stuff has retreated.
Except for, like, that one Ubisoft game that they released this year.
Sure.
But there's been a little less talk about.
I mean, they all saw what happened to Cooking Mama
and stuff.
They were like,
yeah,
Cooking Mama game. Can't get them to install Cooking Mama and let us mine Bitcoin on their Switches. Then forget this.
Yeah.
In bad news, brutal that I didn't even finish the Yakuza TV series.
Well, the subtitles kept turning off.
It just wasn't it? And I knew it wasn't going to be it, but I had hoped.
Yeah.
But probably more The Last of Us coming this year, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think so. Arcane finished.
Fallout. People liked Fallout.
People liked Fallout. Fallout Season 2 is supposed to be coming.
Mm-hmm.
My hottest Game Awards take, and has always been, is their best adaptation category is always just the TV shows that aired that year.
Mm-hmm.
And they should have, like, books and board games.
Yeah, that's boring though. They can't show clips.
I know that's why they only pick TV shows. Yeah. But like, there's a lot of like adaptations that are board games or books, you know, and maybe they should pick those instead of the Yakuza, Like a Dragon Yakuza.
It certainly was an adaptation. I'll finish it probably at some point because I feel like I should. But yeah, bummer.
So we'll see how games do next year.
Ain't that a statement?
I was glad to play a lot of games I really liked this year. And we'll see what happens next year. There do seem to be a lot of games that I really like. Oh, one other thing from this year is that it's good to keep an eye on in terms of what may be changing in future times, is a lot more investment from like Sony, particularly in games from Korea and China. Black Myth Wukong,
right?
Very big.
Well,
you know, like we've had Genshin
be
Impact.
Careful what we talk about that one, but yeah,
yeah. Like obviously Genshin Impact has been very big for a long time, but Black Myth Wukong is like their first like big like AAA type single player game that's really come out of China and has been very successful.
Yes. Right.
And then, you know, I think Eliza P was last year from Korea, Stellar Blade this year from Korea. So a lot more investment in the Asian markets that aren't just Japan, which I think is interesting. Yeah. And we'll see how that goes. That is. Yeah.
Well, I went back and I checked my 2024 gaming resolutions.
Yeah, I did not check mine.
Well, this is the benefit of me keeping everything as Word document notes for my episodes. So my 3 2024 resolutions. So one was I'd like to play more on my Switch and some smaller games in general. But good luck to me with that. I don't really know why
why you said good luck to you. Just
because I actually think I did an okay job at this in general. I played 260 hours on my PlayStation and 166 on my Switch. So that's not bad. I mean, a lot of that was Fire Emblem. But I think I did, I played more of these like indies. So I feel like okay. Like I didn't do like a great job. I didn't play so many games, but I think I can give myself a check with that. Unfortunately, the other two not so good. I gotta figure out some kind of blog format so I can get back to that.
Yeah.
LOL. I do still need to do that. And I'd like to be a little more intentional about when I'm doing my working and gaming and when I'm not.
Yeah. Good job, Mount.
So not so good at those too.
I did write some blogs this year.
You did.
I did not. I don't think I did edited any split screens this year. So gotta get back to that.
Yeah, we gotta just do like a retreat where we edit them all, catch up.
Yeah.
And just wipe the slate clean.
Yeah.
Maybe in January.
Yeah. But yeah, I wrote some arcane blogs, which was a good excuse to get back on writing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll obviously have my annual. Look forward to it.
Yeah.
So either this week or next week, probably. Yeah. We'll have our annual best OPs and EDs list. I think one of my gaming resolutions that I did not do was wanting to make space for revisiting games.
Yeah, that's hard.
And I really want to do that this year. And I think that could also be a way to, like, give myself a reason to, like, write about things, like doing blogs on these.
That's a good idea.
Right, so I did make, like, myself a little revisit bingo card, too.
Oh, neat.
Not just games, a lot of different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I figure if I do that, then I can write a little bit about that, and that'll be a nice little experience. But there are definitely some games that I feel like I would like to go back to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Games that, like, I consider important to me, but that I haven't played for, like, 10 years or whatever.
Kingdom Hearts. No, just kidding.
Probably, I would like to actually play 358 Days Over 2.
Yeah.
I would like to go back and replay that. So that is one of them, I think. But, yeah. I think that's probably my main gaming resolution, is to revisit things that I like and, use that as an excuse to write about them. Right?
Mm-hmm. It's a good idea.
Unfortunately, there are already, like, 20 games coming out in 2025 where I'm like, must play.
Uh-oh. Well, that's only half of the games.
You're right.
20 more slots to fill.
I mean, listen, Danganronpa Fire Emblem is coming out, and, like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Those are my two most toxic traits.
No choice. That's what it is. Couldn't be anything but that.
Do you have any, is it the same resolutions for you, or do you have any extras?
Okay. I do. So I'd like to finish a game every month this year.
Ooh.
I mean, I obviously...
technically did that, sort of.
I finished an average of a game per month.
Yes.
But if you look at my PlayStation and Switch Wrapped, you will see, I mean, and partially some of this was like, I was away, but like, I wasn't away in November, mostly. Like, I have real boom and bust cycles of playing games, which is fine. Like, that's okay. But I would like to push myself, and like, as part of trying to play more smaller games, to say, can I finish a game in every calendar month so that I'm playing more consistently? And I have fewer Talk This episodes where I'm like, oh no, I only played 2 games, right? So I'd like to do that. I'd like to cherish Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
Yes,
that's not a resolution. That's just a like, God, I can't believe they're giving me this game. I can't believe they're giving me the gift of this game. I can't believe I was at the airport at 5 a.m. watching this trailer happen live. I wanted to scream, and there was no one to tell. I was like, I can't even put this on Instagram. No one will understand. Just like photo picture of my computer at JFK Airport, LaGuardia Airport, whatever. Yes, I need to deal with some of the backlog. I need to play Neo Twowie. I like saying Twowie.
Twowie?
Twowie.
Neo Twowie?
Neo Twowie. So it stopped haunting me. And I'd like to try to play a game on Steam.
Whoa!
Just one.
Just one.
Maybe it should be Kentucky Route Zero.
I would like you to play Kentucky Route Zero. In whatever format.
I would like to play it. So yeah, those are the resolutions. That's the goal.
Is it pretty good?
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
And play 40 games.
Yeah.
If I haven't played 40 games next year, I have failed.
I hope that I do not play 40 games.
Okay, that's a good resolution too.
Also starting up next year. Once I, I've already finished, in fact, Tales of Symphonia, because it's noon on Sunday. Mm-hmm. It's time to return.
No, it's not.
It's time.
No.
To wake from our reverie.
No.
And play Trails into Reverie, baby.
No. Here's my resolution. I'd like to beat Kingdom Hearts 4 in 2025.
Here's something dangerous for you, because we were talking about how Trails kind of has like a Yakuza structure.
I know, I don't hate it.
The remake of Trails in the Sky, English dub, worldwide release. Coming out.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
So maybe I have to play that too. I finally go backwards, even though I've resolved never to go backwards. I refuse. Yeah. I refuse to understand Sky.
Only forward.
But and yet they're tempting me.
Well, is it time for Games of the Year?
Yeah.
Goaty?
This was hard.
Yeah, I feel like I don't have a super clear one, to be honest.
I was trying to make my own top 10 just for me.
Okay,
I wasn't gonna share my top 10 on the show because it would take too long. I just couldn't do it. So I was like, how about top 5? And you know what? Top 4, quite easy.
Okay, what's the top 4?
All right. So, top 4 games. Number 4, Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess. Very fun tactics game. I didn't quite get the action, which is why it's 4 as opposed to 3, I think. But really enjoyed the way that looked, the way that played, the fact that they did little dances and songs and jumped around and stuff. And just a very fun game. I picked it back up for a little bit in November when I was just looking for something fun to play. So I even returned to it, Yeah. And played parts of it again. So really loved that. Do you want to take turns or something? Or you want me to just go through my
you
top
keep
4?
Going,
okay.
I just mine is murky.
Top 3.
Some superlatives instead of
Tactical Breach Wizards.
That's such a silly name. Yeah.
Listen, I think I just love tactics games. Yeah. It's really the lesson we're learning here. But very charming story, very fun gameplay. It was nice to puzzle out the different solutions you could have to a level. And then sort of tied for top 1, but I think I would do it number 2, 1,000 Times Resist.
Yep. That was a good one. Very
well written game. Very Emma Core, no. Just very...
I really want to get Click Like Boyfriend to play it. I was trying to get him to play it while we were in Spain. He didn't start it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's Click Like Boy. It's got a lot of overlapping cores.
Yeah, yeah, it's got some cores going on. Just felt like a very, well put together game. Yeah. Very thoughtfully put together, very well constructed.
Yes, smartly crafted.
Things from the beginning come back to the end, and so on and so forth. And then number 1 being 9 Souls, which, is kind of up there just because it's so surprising to me that I liked it so much. Mm-hmm. Right? I think I talked about this when I talked about it, but, I bought it, I supported it, I did the crowdfunding for it because I really like Red Candle, and I really wanted them to recover after the Devotion thing.
Right.
Which, if you don't know, it was removed from Steam, one of their horror games, because they left in a file making fun of Xi Jinping as Winnie the Pooh, because they're a Taiwanese development company. Even though when they announced this, I was like, that's not my kind of game at all. Yeah. I was like, I went them to keep making games, so I will support them on this. And then I had my Steam Deck, you know, when they put it on Steam first, and then it just had its console release, and I started playing it, and man, that was a fun game. I like that game a lot.
I'll have to play it.
Very hard game, too.
Yeah. This is the year you get into Dark Souls.
Yeah, maybe. No, I don't think so. I like this. It's like, I think I've said this. It's like the Kingdom Hearts 3 data fights.
Right. Yes, you have said this.
Yes, where I don't want like a stamina bar, right? Or like a poise bar or anything to worry about. I just want to learn it, right?
Yeah.
And not have to worry about like managing my resources beyond like healing, I guess.
Yeah.
And it just was so fun to figure out and work through, and the fact that it has like a base that you return to with characters that you revisit sort of made the Metroidvania parts of it click for me too. And just great game, you know?
Yeah.
And then 5 is like this murky mess where it's like there's a lot of games I liked, and it just like feels like I'm comparing apples and oranges. Totally. And like
That's
how do I put
my list too.
How do I put something like Rebirth against something like Arctic Eggs?
Yeah, just not.
It's like
it's not the same thing.
They're not the same thing at all. How
Arctic
do I
Eggs do feel like something you would pick up in Rebirth?
Yeah, true. Oh, I picked up 3 Arctic Eggs.
Nice. Nice chess.
But yeah, like the egg making simulator versus like very classic open world RPG thing. How do I even compare those and be like, this is 5 and this is 6, you know? Or like UFO 50, where do I put that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Alright, well, in lieu of doing Game of the Year, let me do a bunch of gaming superlatives, because I'm having a hard time choosing.
Okay. Yeah.
So, Thousand Time Resist, I'll give, like, best narrative,
for
sure, best crafted narrative, and, like, a very effective ending. You should really play it, listeners. Game that I loved so much for 95% of it, and then, like, the ending really felt like a letdown, was Lorelei and the Laser Eyes.
Right, yeah.
So good. So good at making you feel smart, at like not really ever getting stuck, at the puzzles being fun and satisfying and making you feel like you are unraveling something big. Really fun to play with a partner too, because we got to kind of like bounce off each other. And yeah, then I was like, oh, that's it?
Yeah.
So that's my only, if you can be okay with an oh, that's it at the ending, really, really, really good. Really, still really worth playing. Really fun experience. Love getting 2 into a puzzle game with CBB. Just a really classic thing that we do now, apparently. But, yeah, just like, I would love for that to be Game of the Year material. And I was like, ooh. But, ooh. Okay. Game that I think is gonna be better as a game than a TV show. The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Sorry. Game that I really hope is gonna rise more in my esteem when they make the next one. Infinite Wealth.
Yeah.
Game that I'm like withholding final judgment on. Infinite Wealth.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
Yeah, it's you know, you're still playing Rebirth, and I think I mentioned this to you. Like, I feel like I have similar problems with that in Infinite Wealth.
Yeah. Like,
there's so many I love the Zhao story in Infinite Wealth. Mm-hmm. Where he has a restaurant now. Yeah. That brings me so much joy, you know? There's so much stuff in that like brings me joy. The running around town and getting the little skits and stuff and filling out your little bingo cards, whatever. And just like the overall narrative just
doesn't quite
did not. And especially for me, who does not have the Kiryu attachment, right? I still liked, like, the life stuff. Yeah. And I liked the idea of what they were doing with Kiryu, but also they dropped, like, a nuclear toxic barrel on his head, and I did laugh a little bit. No,
there's a lot of things in that. Like, there are emotional beats. The emotional arc of that game feels correctly charted. Yeah. It's just that the narrative arc, they don't seem to care that there are, like, obvious plot holes all over the place. Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, when's your Ichiban game coming? I got a Kiryu game.
I know.
I got a Kiryu game.
You got a Majima game.
I got a Majima game coming. I can't wait. Best DLC mini thing I played, Kaito Files. Gotta give it to it. Kaito Files better than the Yuffie DLC. Better crafted, I think. Overall, more satisfying. The Yuffie intermission, also good, but felt like Kaito was better. The game everyone knows is really game of the year is Trine 5.
Of course, yes.
It was actually genuinely great.
Move aside for Trine 5.
Objectively the best Trine game, but really only the second best Trine game. As I think I said on the episode where I talked about it.
Yes.
Nothing will ever surpass Trine 2
right.
for me. Being able to build like 12 blocks.
Yeah.
And just wreaking mayhem.
Yeah.
That's video games, baby.
Yeah. That's what video games are all about. Just Trine 2. We should stop, focusing on graphics and start focusing on the Trine 2 of it all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
More Trine 2.
Less PlayStation 5 Pro.
More Trine 2.
2.
Trine 2 remake.
Trine 2 remake. Even Trinier.
Trinier, finier. Having a great time here. So it's been a good year. It's been a good year in games. It's been a good year to Talk This as we head into, goodness gracious, what we're coming up on like the 8th anniversary of Talk This?
Yeah.
No? Is that right?
We passed our 200th episode.
Crazy.
Our 200th main episode. We passed our 200th episode a
long
while
time
ago. I'll have to see and try to figure out if I can figure out what our 500th episode is.
Yeah.
And see if we can do something for that. Because we should be coming up on that pretty soon.
Well, in the next couple years. The next, year and a half.
Yeah.
We crossed 200 side quests, too.
There's a couple of episodes that aren't numbered,
yeah.
So...
We're probably at 410, 420.
Yeah.
Or so.
Yeah,
so that's another
You're right.
year and a half.
You're right.
So stay tuned for that in 2026. Stick around.
Stick around.
But listeners, as always, thank you for hanging out with us, for tuning in.
Yeah.
We like talking games, and we hope you do too.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to playing more games next year.
Me too. But probably not as many as Emma.
You know what we should do?
What?
We should try to figure out a way where we all, me and CBB...
You, me, and
CBB. and CBB all play the Elden Ring game together.
We really should. Absolutely. Is it online? I mean, he's in the same time zone now. So
yeah, I don't know.
More doable.
We'll have to figure it out.
Okay, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Can he play it on Switch?
I don't think so. I think you'll have to figure out something else.
Okay, we'll find him a roommate with a PS5.
Okay, good.
That's actually high up on the list for me.
Yeah.
Oh, nice job. Good. PS5 required.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, listeners, thanks for tuning in to this last episode of 2024 of Talk This.
Yay! It's dangerous to podcast alone.
If you like the show, you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, and YouTube at Talk This Podcast. You can also visit our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can read all about the show, check out the games in the hat, and read our blog featuring soon Emma's anime OPEDs.
Yeah, it's
and
a good
arcane
one.
blogs, and you can also go back into the archives and read Click It Boyfriend and Split Screen, and we'll get more Split Screen up there.
I will.
We will. But most importantly, if you enjoy the show, you should subscribe. This should be your New Year's resolution for 2025, is subscribe to Talk This. We are on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts, all online and on the app, Overcast, Pocket Cast. I should really check that all of these things still exist. Because I just say them and some of them could have closed. But if you enjoy the show, you should subscribe so you never miss an episode on Sundays. Next week, it's a side quest. It's your side quest?
It's my side quest.
Great.
I learned from our Spotify Creators Wrapped that we have a listening contingent in Sweden.
Really?
So, hello, Sweden.
Hello. That's weird.
Yeah, I don't know if it's real, but I thought that was notable.
Well, Sweden person or person who puts your VPN in Sweden, thanks for chilling with us.
Tuning in.
Well, that's it for this week's show. That's it for this year's shows. We could do the countdown.
No, if you started like an hour ago, it's now midnight.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
In a couple days. If you started like an hour ago on any day at 11 p.m., it's now about midnight.
It's now about midnight.
Happy day!
Happy new day!